Welcome again to the kitchen of the Celtic Caterer. I'm Chef Eric McBride here. And again, we're on our crusade to teach Celtic cuisine to everywhere across the United States. Today we're doing something that's been a favorite of a lot of people. I'm not just kind of throwing out some festivals that we've done these demonstrations for out in Alma, Michigan. This has been a favorite there. Out in Seaside Scottish Festival in Ventura, California. It's the cauliflower whiskey cheese soup for it all. And so we're going to go and talk about a little different things because there's a lot of cauliflower, there's whiskey, and there's cheese. So what more can be said for a good dish like that? Now this is going to be found not in our soup, sauces, stocks, and stews cookbook, but in our Wells and the Island of Man cookbook for it all. So this is the one that you want. If you want to get a hold of this book or any one of our other 5 other books for it all, go to the website www.celticcaterer, that's CelticCaterer.com, and you can order any of our books or any of our spices there, or our Celtic teas. Now going under our soup today here, cauliflower whiskey cheese soup is using a cauliflower which has become a little bit more popular in our culture in North America in recent years, but has been a part of Celtic cuisine for centuries for it all. So the first thing we need to do is start off with a little bit of Kerrygold butter, because we're going to saute our initial vegetables in the Kerrygold butter here. We get our pot here, and we're going to melt down some of our butter. Keep going here. And the first thing we're going to add in, 2 things. We're going to add in some onions, and about one full onion we're going to be adding into it, and about 2 cloves of garlic is what we're wanting to go do for here. So we get our butter just about melted a little bit. We're going to throw in our onion, all nicely chopped up. It doesn't really matter how much you want to cut this up, because we're going to be pureeing this dish at the end of the time here. So we're going to take our garlic, and if you'll notice, I'm pressing them with the flat of my blade so that I can go and do 2 things. One, it pops off the outer shell covering for the garlic, but 2, it also compresses enough of the mass of the garlic so that some of the oils are released. Now we don't want to overpress it. Sometimes you do, but most times you do not want to overpress. That's why I do not like pressed garlic. It's because you can release too much of the oils and it can be too overpowering for the dish. So we're just dicing it up, our garlic here. And in this case, you really want to dice it up tightly, because we want the flavor of this fresh garlic to go as far as we can in our basis of our sauteing. Now, people have asked me in the case, why do you saute a vegetable to begin with? And you're sauteing it because whether it's the garlic, the onions in here, or other vegetables in here, you're wanting to release the oils and the flavoring of those vegetables and spread it out further on. The butter absorbs it, brings the flavor out a little bit, and it allows you to go and create the more overall flavor of the soup or the dish that you're making. So now we're going to take we're going to use about a half of a cauliflower, and it doesn't really matter, again, as I said, how you chop this up, because we will be pureeing it at the end. But chopping it up just enough that you can go and get all the flavors. Now, some of those nice things that you can do with cauliflower is that you can go and take it through like a cheese grater and grate off, and you get all the little teeny ends here, and you can use that as a substitute for breadcrumbs. So if you got a fish fry and you want to go and, instead of putting a little egg white or egg batter for it all, and then put it in cauliflower little kernels for it all, and then fry it up there, so that you have a very nice gluten-free aspect for your fish fry. Now we want to mix this all around a little bit to the point where the butter is wilting all our vegetables here for our dish. Get a nice little flavor for it all. And then we're going to add in our whiskey. Now, if you've heard me and then doing any of my demonstrations or seen other ones on YouTube or so, we talk about that there's actually a bell curve of cooking with whiskey. Because the way the Irish actually created whiskey to begin with, is they made it exactly like you would go and make, how you would make perfume. So you would cook it up, or it's called a distillation, and getting the steam getting that steam to create the actual essence of what we're concentrated of the flavor for it all. Now, when the Irish make their whiskey, they distill it 3 or 4 times. Taking that extra step, it makes it very smooth, very palatable, very easy to drink. Now, in Scotland and the U.S., they like to distill it twice because they want to have more of those inconsistent flavors, or what you're wanting to go and they feel is the more of the flavor of what they're trying to make. We're actually using a blended Scotch because on our bell curve, depending on the heat that you're adding into our dish, you start off with Irish whiskey because the heat will tend to dissipate and you lose the entire whiskey flavor altogether. So on our bell curve, we have Irish whiskey, Canadian whiskey, then rye, and then what I call the holy trinity of cooking with whiskey is bourbon, sour mash, and blended Scotch. As you get further over a little bit thing, you get a little bit stronger and stronger flavor. Then you come down our curve when you have our blended or our single malt scotches. Now, it's not saying you can't use a single malt scotch, but it's more about an economic aspect for it all. Why pay $50 or $100 for a bottle of whiskey that you're going to cook with when you could pay $15 or $20 for a blended Scotch for it all? And then you have down at the bottom what I call, they're actually my favorite drinking whiskeys, but they're ones that you very rarely want to go and cook with. And those are all the ones from the island of Islay. Now, Islay whiskeys, like one of them right here, would be like Lafroig, Ardbeg, Highland Park, Lagavulin. These are whiskeys that are very peaty. They've been smoked to get a lot of that, and that smoky flavor, however, can be too overpowering, and sometimes you can't taste the rest of your entire dish. So in this case, we want to go and add, between a couple tablespoons and a quarter cup of whiskey. You do not want to put too much. This is not like you're at your beer barbecue and just pour more beer on top of the burger or whatever for it all. The more whiskey you can add in, or you can get to a point where you have too much whiskey, and then it'll overpower all the other subtlety flavors of the whole dish. And that's not something we're wanting to do. So while we have this cooking and our marinating, you could say, in the heat with our whiskey, this is when you want to add your 2 spices to it. You want to add our all Gaelic seasoning, which has thyme, which is one of the most popular spices used in all the Celtic nations. Herbs used in all Celtic. Has a little white pepper and garlic powder into it. And then more importantly, you want to go and use our Welsh-style mustard powder. Now, mustard and horseradish are the 2 primary spices used in the northern Celtic nations for it all. Now, there is another one on the market that's a mustard powder. You do have to watch out because that one, it won't say on your ingredients in English, but it is in chemical form. They actually pad theirs with flour. All of our spices, the Celtic Caterer, are all gluten-free, so we actually use turmeric kind of to expand it out. But we have it's a really good flavor. And you're going to want to put in about a tablespoon of the mustard powder for it. You get a really good flavor for it. We'll mix this all together. And then you want to go and add in about 4 cups of either chicken stock or vegetable stock water. Pour that right on in. And you want to cook that up, and at the same time, you want to add about a potato, 1 full potato, maybe even 2. Depends on if you like thick soups or not. You want to add these together, and you want to boil this for about an hour. And this allows you to go and the potatoes start to break down a little bit in a flavor, the cauliflower starts to break down, and you get a really good flavor. Now, to save us some time, I've already taken this step and gone on to the next. And I have a dish here that we've already been cooking for an hour, where we have all the cauliflower. Now at this time I'm going to add in about half a cup or so, half a cup to a cup of heavy whipping cream. Already added a little bit already beforehand, but we're going to add that into it just to smooth it around. And as we get our hot dish for it all, we're going to add in our last item, about 2 cups of very extra sharp cheddar cheese. Now I'm using Dubliner from Kerrygo Dubliner cheddar cheese, so it's got a really good flavor for it all. And I've hand grated this down. You really want a really, really sharp cheddar cheese, because if you're using something more of a milder cheddar cheese or so, you're not going to get any kind of a cheesy flavor out of it. I really hate when I find this all over the country, different Irish and Celtic bars and restaurants, when they're making their Welsh rarebit, they tend to go and use the same mild cheddar cheese for a Welsh rarebit that you would go and use to go and put on top of a baked potato. Well, the cheddar cheese you put on top of a baked potato is fine because it's not placed under heat, so it doesn't lose its cheesy flavor. When you make a rarebit, you're actually stewing it with beer or ale or so and getting a better flavor for it while you're cooking. And cooked cheese, anytime you apply cheese to heat, you start taking away all of the various different types of all the real flavor, the aid that comes into the soup. And so that's where you have to watch out for. Now I've got my cheese in here. I'm going to go and get it all melted. And then before I go and serve it out, I'm going to get an immerser. Now if you've ever used one of these before, you'll know what this is. If not, how many of you right now have, and I bet you everybody, even if you have one of these, has gone out and when you found a soup recipe and it says to blend it or puree it, you've taken it and poured it into your blender. But then when you put the lid on, you didn't put it quite on well enough and it ended up spraying all your soup all over the whole place for it all. We've all done that. And then if you're trying to pour it back into the pot, you end up pouring it and it's all over the table. Well, this is so much as needed. And as you can see at the very end here, it's got the same kind of a blade as a blender. And I can change the variation of the speeds here. And I can puree my soup. So all my potatoes, the ones that have not already broken down from the cooking, and the same with the cauliflower, can all be broken down and then mixed in, as you can tell, with my cheese. And there we have our cauliflower whiskey cheese soup. Nice and hot for us all. Let's get Nessie here, and we're going to go and serve up a bowl of this. Really nice and hot right now. Always like. Now this was one thing that you all don't notice. If you've come to my demonstrations, you notice when I serve you the soup, I serve it piping hot, and that is another true aspect of Celtic cuisine. Here in the United States, we tend to like our soups maybe not quite so piping hot or whatever, but that's one of the things that really goes and tells you what the kick, that they want their soup to come out like right off, just below boiling, you could almost say. We get our Nessie spoon here, and we get to taste our So you can kind of see nice white color for it all. We see a little bit of the herbs and spices here for it all. We get to taste the cheese for it all. You get all the flavors that taste good. So this is one of those things that's really good flavor for everybody. How much whiskey you want to put in, how much mustard powder, can all determine for it all. And if you notice, I didn't put any salt into this dish either. Salt all came from our chicken stock for it all. So again, if you want to go and find details for this recipe and many more, go to our website, the Celtic Caterer, www.celticcaterer.com, and then you can get a hold of this. Is found itself in our Welsh cookbook. 2 spices that you need to know for are our Welsh mustard powder and the all Gaelic seasoning. Now, just before you go, we are going to be launching on Monday here 4 new spices. In addition to our 10 spices we already have, we have 4 new spices here that have come out. My favorite new one right now is the Welsh fish and vegetable rub. Again, with a little bit more of the horseradish flavor into it. Really has a unique flavor into it. As I said, this is good for fish, seafood, stewed, all together for it all. I really love the vegetables, even on grill for all. We also have our Nordic warming spice. Now this is good for when you're stewing different types of fruits, whether it's apples or peaches or strawberries or different types of berries. This gives a nice little warming flavor for it all. It's mostly done with a little bit of ground cardamom, cinnamon, mace, cloves. It really gives a nice one. And then also grains of paradise, which has a combination of almost like a nutmeg peppery flavor for it all. We also have our Island of Man rub. Now this goes everything great from chicken and seafood to vegetables and mushrooms. Really good thing for mushrooms for a flavor for all. This has parsley, lemons, mustard powder into it. paprika, celery, salt, and a little white pepper, a little bit of everything for it all. And then our other last one is the Shetland Island lemon spice. This can go with seafood. This also has a lot of connection between the Norse when they came in through the Shetland Islands, since that's the one island that's actually closest to both Norway and to Scotland. It shows you the connection for the different cuisines where Nordic influenced a lot of Northern Celtic all the way to Northern Ireland, Island of Man. So this is another one that's really good taste. Come this Monday, we will all have these on a package deal on our website. So I hope you check that out. And again, next Sunday at 6 o'clock, we'll be here again with another episode of Kitchen from the Celtic Caterer. I'd like to thank you all very much. And as they say in Gaelic, Slán Flúir till we all meet again. Thank you very much.